Welcome back to another innovation review. Today, we're going to be checking out the Dolphin from Ecotric. Now, the Ecotric is a very budget-friendly folding step-through e-bike. So that opens it up for quite a lot of people to A, be able to afford, and B, be able to fit on this bike. The Dolphin has this fun, almost playful vibe to it. We've got these dolphins going down the down tube here. And so when you look at the bike, it just kind of looks a little bit more fun, a little bit more lackadaisical, if you will. From a looks perspective, I don't really have too many complaints. I mean, it is what it is. It's a certain style of e-bike. But the rim tape we have on here is red. The rest of the bike is white and blue. So maybe if we had some light blue rim tape, that may just kind of bring the whole thing together. Sort of a nitpicky thing, but if we're talking about the looks, that's what I notice. Next, let's talk about who this bike might be for. As mentioned, this is a little bit more of a fun bike. I don't really see this being a commuter bike or something for a very serious cyclist. That being said, because of the measurements we have here, it really does open it up to a lot of people. Rolling through some of those geometry measurements real quick, we have a 17-inch reach, a 15.5-inch standover height, 21.5-inch minimum saddle height, 30.5-inch maximum saddle height, 24-inch width, 49-inch wheelbase, and a 65-inch length overall. Now, when the bike is folded up, we can get it into a box that is 36 inches by 28 inches by 21 inches. Now, that makes it great for saving space, and there may be some people that are looking at this for a bike that they could throw on a boat or an RV. However, even though it does fold right here in the middle and up here at the stem, it is still quite a big bike. So I would just take those measurements into consideration if that was your situation and you were looking for a bike that you could take a lot of places. It still is a little bit big even when it's folded up. Next, let's talk about the motor. The motor here we have is a 500 watt Ecotric branded rear hub motor. Now, this one was comparable to the other Ecotric motors we've tested in the past. I don't know if it was the controller-computer pair, but this one didn't seem to have quite the zip that most of the Ecotric motors did. So the keypad control we have here over on the left side is very similar to the Ecotric Vortex. However, I found the Ecotric Vortex was a little bit quicker off the line than the Ecotric Dolphin. Now the motors are different. This is obviously the fat tire version, and you can tell it's a lot wider than the rear hub motor that we had for the Vortex. As far as road noise goes, it wasn't too bad. We have these big knobby tires, and so maybe that's covering up some of the noise we get from the motor. So in my opinion, it's very on par as far as noise goes with the other Ecotric motors we've tested in the past. I'm not sure exactly how many newton meters of torque we're getting with this motor either. It does seem like it was maybe a little bit on the lighter side as far as the torque is concerned. However, I'm not 100% sure, and I don't really have a good way to test that. Next, let's talk about the battery. So the battery we have here is mounted right behind the seat post tube, and it's a pretty common place for bikes of this design. There are a few advantages to having this type of placement with the battery. Number one, because this is a battery where the keys have to be in while we use it, this is going to keep it out of the way of us kicking it or dropping it. You're going to be able to put the keys in there, leave the keys in there, and it's kind of back there out of the way. The other advantage here is even though that our center of gravity here is going to be a little bit higher, it is going to keep everything in line with our spine and the rest of that force that we're putting down, making it a little bit easier to handle and balance. And the battery is a 36 volt, 13 amp hour, 468 watt hour battery. It takes about 6 hours for a full charge. Now, full disclosure, I didn't have to charge this one when it came with the bike, so I was able to ride it around kind of right out of the box. However, that is kind of the estimated. I believe it's like 5 to 7 hours, and so I just rounded it to 6. So based on the watt hours here, we should be able to get anywhere between 15 to 23 miles per charge on this battery. Now, that's not a whole lot. Again, it's a 36 volt compared to a 48 volt. We'd get quite a bit more mileage there if it was a 48 volt. However, this isn't a bike where you're going to have to be going long distances. Like I mentioned, not really designed to be a commuter. This is more of a fun run and gun kind of situation. Maybe you can use it to tow it around in the neighborhood, head down to the seawall, things like that. And so in my opinion, the range isn't necessarily a huge deal because what you're going to be using this bike for primarily doesn't really require you to have that much range to begin with. One of the disadvantages of having the battery mounted behind the seat post tube here, especially where I've got the seat, to be comfortable for me, I found that I had to either pull the seat way out and the battery just kind of fit out, or I would have to take the seat off completely. And this is something you would never run into if you just kept the battery on the bike and you just charged it in the frame. However, if you wanted to take the battery out, charge it inside, you would just have to keep that in mind that you'll probably have to move the seat up and down. So it can be kind of annoying. It does come with a quick release, so this isn't something where you're gonna have to bring out an Allen key every time. You can just loosen it, pop it out, and you'll be good to go. Next, let's talk about the brakes. So the brakes we have here are these 160mm discs. We've got these C-Star mechanical brake calipers here. Now, where this bike is at this price point, what you're going to be using it for, keeping in mind that 20 miles per hour top speed, mechanical disc brakes aren't really a huge deal. Could we add hydraulic disc brakes to this in the future or future models? For sure, but I don't think that it really brings anything to the bike that we necessarily need. And I would imagine that would bring up the cost a little bit here. So keeping those costs low, staying with mechanical disc brakes, not really a huge deal to me on this particular bike. Now, right out of the box, after I installed everything, the discs and the calipers, they worked really well. I didn't really have to finagle it too much to get it to not be rubbing on the brakes. However, when you do use the brakes in regular use, you're going down the road 15, 20 miles per hour and you go to put on the brakes, they were quite loud. They definitely had quite a screech to them. And again, it's not when you're riding around, kind of just annoying all the time. It's just when you go to use the brakes, it can be a little bit, screechy. Next, let's talk about the gears. So the Dolphin is a 7-speed bike, and up here on the right-hand side, we have got this Shimano SIS index shifter. You guys know I'm a big fan of these. Super easy to use. Anybody can kind of look at this and go, oh, okay, this is the plus, this is the minus. All in all, big fan. And that is connected back here to this Shimano tourney derailleur. So no real surprise here. We've also got this included derailleur guard, which is nice. Not that we would necessarily be worried about sticks and stones for this particular bike. However, going around in the city, hitting curbs or sides of buildings, this is something that will just stick out and help keep our derailleur in alignment. Next, let's talk about the extras. The only thing that I would count as an extra on the Dolphin are going to be these included fenders. So we've got these white fenders. They are a metal fender. They match the rest of the frame, so from a looks perspective, they're pretty nice. However, they are a little bit heavy, and if we get a scratch on here, that may lead us open to possible rust in the future. Other than maybe that derailleur guard on the back, we don't really have any other extras on this bike. We don't have a rack, we don't got a front light or a back light or suspension. So with this bike, it is a little bit more basic, and given the price, that makes a lot of sense. Next, let's talk about the suspension. Well, no real suspension here, but one of the parts we usually talk about for the suspension is going to be these tires. So the tires we have here are these big 20 by 4 inch Cheoyang tires. So we don't have any of the safety features that we like to see in tires, such as the sidewall reflective stripe or puncture protection with these tires. Again, this is somewhat of a basic bike, so not having these here is not really a surprise to me. As far as how they rode, I feel like if we had regular tires on this bike, the ride would have been much stiffer. So having these bigger fat tires that you can kind of mess around with the PSIs, bring those down just a bit to give you a little bit more cushion, really helps with this particular bike, kind of add some comfort to it because we don't have either a rear or front suspension. The other aspect of suspension we normally talk about is the saddle. So the saddle here is kind of this bigger, plusher saddle, and most of the time those don't really fit me quite right. I found that this one was actually pretty comfortable to ride around on. Because I had the seat so low, I found that I was putting a little bit more pressure than normal on my butt compared to my feet on the pedals. And normally on other saddles, this may cause some discomfort. But with this saddle, I found that I could put that extra weight on my butt and not really feel any soreness or discomfort after riding this around for a while. Next, let's talk about the controls. So the controls for this bike are going to be over here on the left-hand side, and we have got this button and light keypad. So no LCD display on this bike. All the functions are very simple. We've got the on-off button over here on the left side. We have got our mode button, which will put us in low, medium, or high. And we've also got the power lights here that'll show us how much power we got. How much power. And the 6-kilometer button here is going to be for entering the walk mode. Now the walk mode I found on this one was a very comfortable pace. Not too fast whatsoever, but didn't really feel like it was dragging, or if I wanted to walk, I felt like the bike was keeping up with me, and it was a good speed. And that pretty much covers it for the nuts and bolts of the Ecotric Dolphin, so let's head outside for the ride test. Alright guys, welcome to the ride test portion of the review. We are out here on the Ecotric Dolphin. We're going to go ahead and power it on. This little on-off button right over here on the side, just click it in, and it's going to come to life. Now the screen over here shows us a couple things. It's going to show us how much power we're pulling. It's going to show us what pedal assist level we're in. Now this one's got 3. It's got low, medium, and high. pretty simple, and use this mode button to switch between them. But before we do that, let's go ahead and turn it back off, and let's test this out as if it were not an electric bike. So we're just going to go through the gears, and we'll go down into first here and up into second. Pretty easy shift from first to second. Nice shift from second to third. Third to fourth. It's pretty good. Fifth to sixth. Or that's fifth to sixth, excuse me. And 6 to 7. A little bit of a tough shift going from 6 to 7. But with this bike, I'm not necessarily super concerned about the pedal geometry or how well I can pedal. This bike really wasn't designed for that, and that's okay. It's just something that you gotta know when you're getting into it. If you're looking for a bike that's gonna have some nice, easy pedal geometry and you're gonna be able to do a lot of really efficient work without the battery, this isn't the bike. You know, it's not really what this was designed for. So because we have the throttle on here, this is a bike where I can imagine that you'd want to cruise around with the throttle maybe a little bit more than pedaling. So the throttle's very normal. Very normal, is that the right word? It doesn't accelerate too fast. There's nothing insane about it, but it does give us a nice even ramp up to that top speed of 20 miles per hour. Now the brakes on here are a little bit squeaky. So if that comes across a lot in the video, I apologize. And that's just something where we could maybe look at burning them in, or you know, some other ways we can make that a little less screechy. We could replace the pads that are down there in the calipers. However, you know, just out of the box, just something to be aware of. Brakes might be a little bit squeaky. So we do have these 20 by 4 inch tires, and they are handling this gravel pretty good. Now this is kind of like a sand-packed gravel overlay sort of bike trail, and this is pretty much perfect for what this bike's capable of doing. Obviously, you know, it handles itself well on the pavement and in the neighborhoods and things like that, but when you're on kind of this semi-paved, you know, definitely taken care of hard-packed trail, those big, nice, knobby tires that we get are, you know, they're doing their job down there. Let's go ahead and test out the pedal assist. And like I said, we do have 3 different pedal assist modes, that being low, medium, and high. Again, keeping it super simple. Got some nice little curves over here. All right, so let's go ahead and put it into the lowest level of pedal assist over here, and we'll just start pedaling. About half a rotation before I start to get a little bit from that low setting, but it is not giving me too much. Maybe we're going, oh, there we go, it's picking up a little bit. Probably going that 6-7 miles per hour, something like that. I'm kind of going downhill a little bit. And I'm gonna make this turn right now. No, I'm just kidding, I can't do that. Let's go ahead and we'll pop off over here, put it into high pedal assist, drop this down a little bit, and we're up the hill. Not too bad, honestly, for a little bike that's not supposed to be doing any climbing. And then we are in that highest level of pedal assist. Go ahead and shift up into 7th. And it is pretty quick getting up to that 20 miles per hour. Now, in my opinion, we do run out of gears with how fast this is going and the ratio of the gears that we do have on the bike. So there is a little bit of just kind of my feet are just pedaling, and I know I'm not really doing anything for propelling myself forward at that point. So maybe you're pretty good up until that 15-16 mile per hour, probably close to that 15 mile per hour. And again, that's just an estimation because we don't have a display that's going to show us exactly how fast we're going on this bike. So it's something to keep in mind if you are interested in tracking stuff like that, or you want to see, what kind of wattage you're pulling. This is not a display where that is going to be an option for you. Do a little circle back action. A little bit of delay with the pedal assist there. So I found that there's a couple times where I'll have a little bit of a delay starting with the pedal assist, but I haven't had any issues with a delay in stopping the pedal assist, which in my opinion is probably where some of these bikes may get into the most trouble. So if you're going and you want to stop, I mean, it's like half a second to a second before, you know, the motor's going to cut off. And if you're on one of those bikes and you're going and then you want to stop and you've got another, you know, 5-6 seconds of motor power that you don't want, well, you know, you could run into some issues there. And with these ones, we do have brake inhibitors. So that means, like, even if I'm pedaling and getting juice from the motor, as soon as I hit these brakes, even though I'm still pedaling, the motor is gonna cut off. And again, just another little safety thing. So for my opinion, a little bit of a delayed start on some of these takeoffs. However, where it matters probably the most from a safety perspective is if it's gonna stop when I wanna stop, and it does that pretty good. So let's go ahead and pull over here and test out the walk mode. Again, brakes a little squeaky there. So on the walk mode on this one, it's fairly simple. All we have to do is hold down the 6 kilometer button here, and it is gonna go off at what I'm estimating is 6 kilometers per hour. Feels a little bit slower than that in my opinion. It's a very nice, very easy walk. So nothing that you'd have to be in really great shape to keep up with, where we've seen with some of those, you know, sportier mountain bikes where they have like a 6 to 7 miles per hour walking speed, and that's, you know, that's kind of crazy. So this one's nice and slow, super easy, and as soon as we let it go, then we are done. So it's one of those things where we don't have the option to put this kind of on a cruise control for walking it, but with this bike, not really a big deal. And then, you know, as soon as we lift off, it's going to cut the pedal assist. Well, the walking assist, because this is in walk mode. So let's go ahead and put this motor through a couple more climbing tests. You saw we hit that one a little while ago, so let's maybe hit some more. This is a nice little park for hitting some of those little inclines. Let's see, let's go down the hill. Handled itself pretty well. Get a little bit of water there. That's like some BMX action right there. Gotta hit that again. But I can't be scared of it. Gotta hit that. You gotta hit it pretty hard there. Pretty sharp. Ooh. Ouch. Those brakes. Having a blast running through this water. All right, let's hit it. There we go. That was the ticket. That's the stuff. So this bike is either used for riding along the beach, nice easy rides, or taking it to your local BMX park and showing off. The last part was a joke. I don't know if the humor comes across all the time in these videos, but that is a joke. Do not take this to a BMX park for a few reasons. Mainly, there's no suspension here, and this bike was not built to withstand those sort of brutal treatments. So let's go ahead and hit this other little jump here. Throttle only. Gonna hit this bad boy. And a little bit of assistance from me there, but not too bad. All right, so let's talk about motor noise here. Now, I am noticing that this motor, when compared to some of the other ones, you know, we've reviewed some Ecotrics in the past, like the Hammer and the Rocket, and I feel like those motors may have been a little bit quieter than this. I don't know if that has to do with the build, and when you look at this thing, there seems to be a couple of different hollow spots, so I don't know if it's just a little bit more, you know, resonation or anything like that. However, to me, it seems like it is a little bit
louder. Now, even with those other bikes, we had those bigger tires, so they may have been producing some more road noise, kind of covering up some of the motor noise. So the motors in and of themselves may be, pretty much the same. However, in my experience riding it, it just seems like I can hear it a little bit more than normal. Let's go ahead and turn around. Now we're just cruising. So with a bike like this, price where it's at, you're definitely looking at a lot of budget choices here. The display I think is a good example. We've got a display that doesn't really show us too much. It is super simple, very easy to use. So if this was going to be your first e-bike, or you weren't really worried about, kind of the watch you're pulling or speed or anything like that, then it's not really that big of a deal. However, if that's something, again, like I mentioned, you're interested in, then you'd have to look at probably a different option here. We've got this Shimano SIS shifter on the right side, which I'm a big fan of. I always mention that I'm a big fan of them. I don't know if I'm their biggest fan, but maybe I am. I don't know. I like them. They're super simple, easy to use. Never had any issues with it. I have a mountain bike that I'm putting together, a little custom build action, which I may make a video on here in the next little bit. And I've got some of those Shimano trigger shifters, and those are pretty cool. Very nice. But we don't need to do anything super fancy like we plan on doing with, the mountain bike. So this is perfect. It works just what we needed to do. Let's see how she handles herself around these corners going top speed here. That one looked a little bit too sketchy. Oh, that was a branch to the face. Good thing I'm wearing my helmet. Oh, look, it's a garage sale. We could turn this into a garage sale bike review. We could go and review the garage sale. We could trade the bike for some goodies. Maybe some vintage camera lenses. You never know what people get up to around here. You just never know. Well, guys, that is pretty much going to do it for our review of the Dolphin from Ecotric. If you want to know more, I'll have a link to Ecotric's website down below. And if you've got any other questions, please let me know. I love talking to you guys, and we'll catch you on the next one.